Hi, if you or your children are suffering because of your relationship with your ex-partner, because it's stressed or strained, or maybe they're just not a nice person, this show... Hey everybody, Charlie Jewett here with Brooke Olson and the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast. This is episode 21. Can you believe that, Brooke?
Moving right along. We've been at this for, almost 5 months now.
I was going to say
October.
21, 26 would be half a year, right? So we're getting there, man. This is awesome. It's really exciting. We're seeing the listenership grow. We're seeing a bunch of different countries people are listening in. It feels like people are being helped. I hope you guys are loving the show. I'm certainly learning a ton as I interview and talk with Brooke, who you probably know. I know him pretty well, but I hear different things every time we have one of these recordings. Episode 21 is going to be playing the game of what if, the practice of taking control. Now, certainly we're not taking control of the other person or of reality, right, Brooke? So I'm assuming you're going to dig deeper into the things that we do control and how to, control the things that make the most or the things that are in our own lives, right?
Right. And this is kind of a game that I've played with many of my clients over the years, and the idea here is to, we keep looking at how to change how we think and how we look at this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And again, so much of what we land in this arena is being a victim to, or thinking that we're a victim to a particular set of circumstances. And a lot of what happens with people that have been in relationship with a high conflict personality on the other side of this is how they have been complicit or how they have been codependent with them and trying to manipulate through walking on eggshells or manipulate through doing what the other person wants them to do. And it becomes this trap of, if I don't do it in a particular way, they're going to blow up, or there's going to be something else that I have to respond to that is really super uncomfortable, and they become complicit in the problem, in the conflict, by trying to not be in the conflict. So what we're talking about in here is starting to think about what if I didn't do that? What if I did something different? What if I let them do that? What if I didn't try to make them do something different? And when we start to play this game of what if and really step into the possibilities here, things really start to change. We can let our anxiety drop away, and the freeze of being stuck here can start to shift.
Yeah. Anytime somebody uses the word victim, I'm taken back to the beginning of my separating and then going through the divorce and stuff like that, because it irked me to no end when people would say to me, stop acting like a victim. I'm like, I am the victim, darn it. You know what I mean? There was actually real things that were done and then things aren't going well. But there's a difference between being the victim. You walk out your front door, a sniper shoots you. That's not your fault. But that's the moment you have to take control. And you can act like a victim in the sense that you say, well, I got shot. You know what I mean? There's nothing going to change that. But you can't lay around and be a couch potato for the rest of your life. You're like, oh, I got shot. You got to go to the hospital and deal with it, move on, right? Do the therapy and all that.
Right. Get on with your life.
Get on with your life. Right. All right.
And not continue to be a victim to that particular piece. And,
right.
Part of that in that reality and the reality of dealing with a high conflict personality is the PTSD that comes along with it, that post-traumatic stress that happens that we get attached to. And that's a neurological piece. That's a natural outcome to having something traumatic happen to you. But the way through that is to deal with that wiring, to deal with that piece so you can move past it. And part of that conversation is coming into relationship with that is exactly where I'm at. And back to that conversation that we had in the last episode around this is what is. So how do I effectively change what is?
And I this is near and dear to my heart, this PTSD thing, because I had a time where I asked a therapist, I'm like, I'd never been to war. I just had a lot of really disappointing, incredibly painful crap happen over a 7-year period, bad news every 2 or 3 months for 7 years or whatever. Can I have PTSD? I asked him that, and he said, well, yeah, it's not post-traumatic war disorder, right? It's post-traumatic stress disorder. And I guess his example was if something sad or terrible happens, it's very normal to go into depression, and then you're sad for 3 months or whatever, and you sort of come out of it. But then if another one happened at that 3-month period, and then every 3 months when you're supposed to come out of it, a new one showed up, right? And you never get out of it, that can do some do some stuff in your mind. What do you see as, how do people get out of PTSD when they've been through really traumatic relational things and they sort of continue to some degree with the same person?
Therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, the therapy is coming back into, the somatic relationship of what is here for me, and not being in denial that I'm depressed, or not being in denial that I'm on edge, or that I'm in anxiety all the time. It's coming into relationship with, I am here. And now, what is the cause of this, and how do I start to unravel that matrix? How do I start to change the circuitry so I can see the world from a different perspective and start to change it? Because some of this stuff is self-fulfilling. It does its own thing, because that becomes the lens that we see everything through. So part of that therapeutic movement is away from that fixation on that one focus, and being able to see again the broader picture, and being able to take responsibility and start to change the thought process of what we're trying to navigate.
Isn't the death of a marriage or a relationship, or the dream of it, whatever, isn't it similar to the death of a loved one in this sense? When I attended grief therapy one time, or not grief therapy, but like a class on grief, I remember the guy saying, you're not sick. Like, you don't get better from this. You're not trying to get better. This is the new normal, right? And isn't there a similarity here? Like you're not sick and trying to get better from this, like PTSD, or this, maybe with PTSD, but this is the new normal. Something died and you're not going to get back to the way it was. You're on to something new.
Yeah. We're coming into a relationship of the new orientation of our life. And sometimes that's a painful piece. We've broken a bond. There's been a bond that's been broken. We may have broken it ourselves, or we may have had somebody break it. And there's a whole new orientation to our world that comes out of that. Mm-hmm. And some of the grief that we are experiencing is the reorientation. Somebody died in our family. They're gone. They're not here anymore. We can't talk to them. We can't have that relationship. There's a new orientation to our world. That piece has been removed, and we have to fill that gap or make a change to whatever it is. And a divorce is the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I see one of my favorite words coming up, which is boundaries. So what do you want to teach in this next section on anxiety, and what do you mean by freeze?
Well, the anxiety that comes out of having somebody else make the decisions, or us being oriented to, we have to comply to what they are trying to make us do, otherwise things are going to get worse, or I'm going to be seen as this, will take us into freeze. So that anxiousness at its full expression is paralyzing.
Yeah.
So what we're doing here is we're changing the way we're thinking about what that situation is, and we begin to make decisions that free us from being in that freeze. In other words, they're not going to tell me what I can and can't do. The court isn't going to tell me what I can and can't do. To some degree, we're gonna play with that for a little bit, and then we're going to start to create new boundaries that keep that other person from coming in and monkeying with the new gears that we're setting in motion, the new decision makings that we're doing. And part of this has to do with how we look at how the kids are affected by it, by our own enmeshment, our own trying to control the outcomes for them, and to be able to step into a more empowered place in our lives that allow us to get in motion, to come out of the freeze, and to be in the mainstream of our lives, and to do things in a more empowered fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what this looks like is, somebody is controlling what we do, and this is usually an illusion that's created by us. So what'll happen with a narcissist is I'm going to do everything that I want to do, but when I don't want to do it, you're going to have to pick up the slack. So we've got this schedule, and I can't get the kids today. You need to drop everything you're doing and go get the kids. Or I've got travel, and I know this is my time, but since I'm traveling, you have to take care of the kids. And you become the slave to this other person's schedule, or the slave to this other person's whim of having to take care of the children. Now, what we start to look at on a bigger scene in this is this person is asked for 50 or 70% or 80% or 100% of time with the children, but it's only as it serves them. So I'm at work. I'm working late tonight. I don't have the kids, and I've got a deadline that I have to meet at work. And I get this phone call from the other parent that says, my plane's late flying in. I can't get the kids at this time. You have to drop what you're doing and go get the kids. What happened if I didn't answer the phone?
Yeah.
What would happen if I didn't answer that phone coming in?
They'd have to knock it out, right?
Exactly. So rather than come into this anxious piece of, oh my God, I've got to drop what I'm doing, I've got to go get the kids, my deadline's on, this anxious piece that comes up, and now I'm compliant or I'm complicit with this person's manipulation. There's that codependency that I step into, and I try to make it okay. I try to make it okay for them, and I try to make it okay for the kids. Well, what I'm doing in that process is I'm creating more dependency. I'm creating more potential for conflict, because the next time this comes up, there's an expectation that I'm going to do that. Well, the truth of the matter is this didn't happen just now. This has been something that's been going on for potentially years as you spent with this other parent. This is not a microcosm. This is something that has been in it. So what we're trying to do is create a different conversation. What if I don't pick up that phone?
Yeah.
What if I don't pick up the children? What if the kids have to sit in the school lobby waiting for somebody to pick them up because somebody can't reach me, and it's, oh, by the way, it's not my responsibility at this time?
Yeah.
That does not come back on me. That comes back on that other parent.
Right.
And the kids are uncomfortable in that. It's not ideal for them, but it also gives everybody the vision of what's really taking place here.
Yeah.
We're back to that last week conversation of what is, and really exposing what is through this process.
Yeah. So, because if what is, like, people are upset with what is because they think it's bad in some way. They think it's unhealthy for the kids or unfair or something like that. If you're right in thinking that, and you help expose truly what is, then everybody's going to see that, right? Judge or whatever. Right. See that. Interesting. Very interesting. All right. So,
this person is developing this illusion that they're perfectly capable of doing all of the things of being a parent, of doing all of the things of getting the kids to and from the places that they need to get to and from, to the ball games and all of these other pieces. And then without your participation, that illusion disappears. Without your participation, they're not able to maintain everything that they're saying that is manageable for them.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're talking about custody, when we're talking about time with our children, when we're talking about creating a healthy environment for them, what we're trying to do is create stability. And for us to shore up artificially somebody else's stability, to stabilize something for the kids, is artificial stabilization, right?
Right.
Because there's going to be a time where we can't take care of everybody's stuff because we're not capable of having all of the time to do everything for everybody all of the time. I remember having one client who getting a divorce, and there was these children that had multiple things going on all during the week, and the one parent took care of that stuff with the help of family and friends. And the other parent had this illusion that they were involved with that, but they were only involved with that to a small extent. They weren't involved with the planning and the execution and the pickup and the drop off and the different places that these children had to be at different times. And when the marriage dissolved, this person is going, oh, I can do that. I can take care of that. I've been involved with that. And then when left to it, the children didn't get to where they needed to go. They were always late. There was not this uptick of the ability for that person to take care of, but it doesn't get exposed until it gets exposed.
Right. There you go.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's a he said, she said conversation. So when we step back and we go, okay, we're going to play a game of 52 pickup.
Yeah.
And we scatter the cards all over the ground, then we get to see where the cards lie, right?
Yeah. Yep. So the boundaries that you were talking about with the phone call, that example, the boundary could either be don't answer the phone and wait 24 hours to listen to the voicemail, so you're not, if the person's always giving you urgent things, or listen to the voicemail and don't do anything about it, or pick up the phone, listen to them ask you to do something and say, I'm unable to do it.
Right.
Period. Right. And if they start screaming and yelling, just hang up. Just disengage. Right.
Right.
They start trying to manipulate you.
This is on you. You have to have somebody else take care of this piece. I am not your nanny.
Right. Yep.
Right.
And I've seen this. I've seen this in a real situation where a mother, this is the alienated mother. So the other person wanted the kids all the time. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it was her weekend and she was going to be out of town. And every time she ever offered extra time, the other person would take it. And she said, I'm going to be out of town. Would you like the kids? And the way it came back, the ex said, no, you have to take care of it. It was almost like a test, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, this is your issue. And so the mom organized, the kids' grandparents and a bunch of their aunts and uncles and everybody to kind of take turns coming to the house for 4 hours or sleeping over. You know what I mean? Just took care of it. That's
right.
The way you do. That's the way if you're a married couple and you're going to be out of town, you got to have somebody pick the kids up from school and feed them and make sure they're safe and stuff. There's no difference, right?
Right. I remember having my grandson, and it was right during the period of time where he was coming to live with me, and I had a trip planned, and there was no way in hell he was going back to his mom's during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And his mom had all this, I was getting these emails of, well, isn't that too bad? You're going to have to cancel your trip and, all of this other stuff. And my response was absolutely nothing. I had already made plans. So my grandson was fully taken care of for that week. Everything was handled. He was, his ability to get to and from school and do everything was handled. And it became a non-conversation, right? Because I handled it. And the expectation in this is what if you make the other parent do exactly that?
Yeah.
And if the child's needs aren't met in that moment, it's not the end of the world. But what's going to happen is there's going to be something exposed that says this person isn't capable of doing what they said that they're capable of.
Yeah.
Or they're going to pick up and get the things in place that those things are taken care of, and you are set free again to do the things that you need to do while it is not your parenting time.
Yeah, I see you've got something written here that I really like. Parent as if you were the only parent when it's your time.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense to me, right? Because some people only have one parent, right? Some people have parents that are still together, and some people have mom and dad that are separate. But when you have your kids, don't lean on your ex. Just parent like you're the only one.
Yeah, and parent across the board like you're the only one. Make the decisions as if you are the only parent making the decisions. If I've got to get the child to the doctor, take the child to the doctor. If I've got to get the child to the dentist, take the child to the dentist. Don't ask the question, take the action.
Yeah.
And there's some place where, people will say, well, the court documents say that I have to ask the other parent. Well, yes and no. I mean, let's spread that out for a moment. A child is sick. I'm going to take the child to the doctor, and then I'm going to tell the person that I took the child to the doctor. I'm not going to say, can I take the child to the doctor? Because that's an argument that what's wrong, and we get into all this stuff, and I don't want you to do this and that and the other thing, and it becomes this place where the child doesn't get their needs met. You got this place where a child needs braces, right? And the parent is in an argument with you about getting braces, not because the child doesn't need braces, because of the money. So you take the child and you get them braces, and you spend the money to get the child braces, and you don't get into the argument.
Mm-hmm.
This is taking the anxiety out, and it's taking the argument out of the things that are basics that the child needs. The child needs clothes for school. The child needs books for school. The child needs extra help at school. These are things that are within every parent's ability to take on without getting into the conversation. What if I take control of this?
Interesting.
Right?
It's very interesting to me because my situation was I worked and she didn't, so that it was that typical kind of family. I was at work and she was doing all the doctors and errands and all that, and she's got them more than I do, and it still tends to kind of be that way. You know what I mean? Like I'm showing up to doctor's appointments to support and things like that, but I wonder if there's something for me to learn because I'm not scheduling doctors unless it's like an ER visit. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I could be leaning too heavily on, well, like, your mom's going to take care. I don't say your mom's going to take care of that. You know what I mean? Well, frankly, I may have said that even at times, to be very candid in front of our listeners. There may have been times like, okay, when you get back to mom's, make sure she takes you to the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying it may be better to parent like I'm the only one. Be like, well, let me call your doctor and set up a time for you guys to go in. And I can set it up on the days I have them, right?
Right.
That's interesting.
And what you get out of that as a parent is you've got this intimate connection with the people that are caretakers or caregivers for your children, right?
Right.
You've got an intimate relationship with the teacher. You've got an intimate relationship with the doctor. They know who you are. They know that you're involved. And when you call and you ask a question, there's a connection at the other side of that rather than who is this person?
That's helpful. I'm going to put some thought into that after we're done, with the episode. I'm going to put some thought into my situation and see where that applies. That's awesome. So get out of the way when it isn't. What does that mean? Or get out of the way when it's not your parenting time. That's what you mean, right?
Right. Get out of your way. Get out of the way. Let them parent. Let them either be a great parent or to screw up. Get out of the way.
And when you're passing the baton and racing, you pass the baton to the person in front of you, and then you stop, and in that sense, you get out of their way, or they kind of run away from you. But imagine if you just kept running next to them and talking to them and telling them how to run and everything, and they're like, "Get away from me!" Right? That baton handoff, or the kids going back and forth, you're done. Like just
your responsibility's over. It's the next person's responsibility.
Yeah.
Because they've asked for that responsibility. That person that you are passing that baton to has asked for you to give them the baton. What they do with it from that point is up to them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's not that different than dropping kids off at school. I'm sure there's some moms. I'm sure there's moms or dads that are kind of meddlers that like call the school and tell them how they should be doing things and check, you know what I mean? And the school's like, we got this. Leave us alone. It just, so that the don't collude with professionals. I see our next point. Don't collude with professionals. What do you mean by that?
Well, when we're in these situations, oftentimes we've got attorneys, therapists that are supporting our victim state. We can do this. We should do this. You shouldn't have to do that. There's these places of collusion that happens where we've talked about negative advocates before, and those are places where solutions aren't created. So when we're talking with the professionals, we want to create our own solutions. We want to be the captains of our own ship, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And what we want to do is we want to gather information. We want to have these professionals give us information. We want them to give us different choices and aspects of what we're trying to create so we can see everything, not just, oh, you should have more time. We can go get you more time. We're going to do this by getting you more time. And that's wrong. And, there's this one piece, and it's a single point conversation, and we get sucked into that single point solution. But what we want them to do is give us multiple pieces of information, so we're asking questions, and then we're going to take in that information and we're going to make the decision. We're not going to have somebody else make the decision for us. We're going to take command of that, and we're going to say, okay, given the scenarios that you have laid out for me or for us, this is the direction that I choose. And I want to be really clear on everything that we're doing. I want to have clear information of how to go about this so I don't get confused. And then this is the direction we're going to go, and not have somebody else making those decisions for us. It's, again, we're back to taking control of the situation on our own and not being a victim to somebody else's decisions or somebody else's ideas where we are giving up our responsibility. We're saying, you do this for me, because that is the ultimate victim place where it's somebody else's fault. Now, I remember back in the days of construction when I was running a lot of work, I always tried to get deep into the conversations with the people that I was doing work with, because people will do one of two things. They will not give you information. So when you screw up, it's your fault. Or on the other side of that, people will not ask for details of information as they're trying to make decisions, so they can blame you for not giving you the information, right?
Yeah.
So there's this setup of being a victim on either side of that. So as we're in that place with the professionals, we're not letting them set us up, and we're not setting ourselves up in that.
Hey, so we were talking, I'm thinking about the podcast we did last week on as is, right? Just accepting how things are as is. In a sense, and this isn't, it's not 100% true across the board. There's some good, honest people out there, but in a sense, this profession, like the divorce attorneys and things like that, is, in a sense, this entire profession gets paid if they can convince you that things aren't good the way they are and need to change, right?
Yeah, they create their own problems sometimes.
Because I think about the medical community where really, doctors do better if we're fat and sick. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't be so great for the medical world if everybody got their nutrition under control and didn't have all these diseases and stuff. You know what I mean? So there's a mismatch between what we want for ourselves and what's good for them, right? In a sense, if everybody was just accepted things the way they were as is, and then were the best version of themselves so that the real as is came out and then the courts adjusted to it, we wouldn't need all these professionals and things like that. And so another piece of don't collude with the professionals really is don't be pushed around by people being like, you should have more time, you should have this, it should be better, blah, blah, blah. You get caught up in that, right?
Right. And coming into is what is the best, rather than having somebody shame me into it should be something different. Right?
Yeah. So everybody can take control of how they're thinking about their current situation, right? Purposefully, even if you have to, remember they used to make kids stand at the whiteboard and write things 100 times? Even if you have to do that, right? My situation is not that bad. My situation is not that, whatever, right? Take control of that. Take control of what you can do for yourself. Get yourself into shape, get yourself healthy, get yourself into therapy, right? Take control of your boundaries we talked about. So find the places where you're being codependent or whatever, where you're sort of still in relationship or partnership with the other person on their time, and start to say no, right? And then you're talking about, reiterate again, taking control, how the practice of taking control when dealing with professionals. How would you put that in a nutshell?
Well, again, asking a lot of questions, getting a lot of information, and then processing it in a way that says, okay, this is what I want. This is what is appropriate, or this is what's best for the kids. Not having my ego get in the way, not having somebody shame me into something different, not having the standard, it should be like this conversation come up, because the standard may be not enough, or the standard may be too much. And to really put it into the context of what is the appropriate piece here. So where's my money going? Where's my time going? And where is my life force going?
Yeah. Ugh, I've felt that, been drained before.
I don't think anybody that's been through this hasn't felt like their life force has been totally sucked from them.
Yeah.
And to come back up from that and to begin to be able to do something different. But this is the place of finding the potency. This is the place of living your life and taking back control of that, because being complicit or codependent with what somebody else's demands are is not the answer here. The idea of trying to hide from conflict creates conflict.
Yeah.
And it's this place of being able to be in that anxious state, to being in the place of not being in a place of feeling good and standing in it and going, okay, I'm going to do something different from here. I'm going to step out of this into A, taking control of this, by B, making them be responsible for the control that they've asked for.
Yeah. Nice. Anything else you want to say on this topic? Playing this game? What if?
Yeah, I think just playing this game of what if and digging into this, if the people listening to this podcast today will start to pull this apart and play with these ideas and get out there with it, they're going to find that there's a lot more that they can do. And if they need help with this, if they want to ask more questions with this, they can step in, they can book some time with me, they can join one of our classes, they can do these other things that we've made available for them to work these pieces out. It's a work in progress. It's a discovery of how to do things differently.
And I can tell the listeners, you may have known this from other podcasts, but I've taken Brooke's class, one of them, the high conflict class, and it's absolutely fabulous, incredibly helpful for both my girlfriend and I. All right, well, that wraps up episode 21. We'll be back next week. Brooke Olson and Charlie Jewett signing out. Hang in there. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for all your emails and all the listens. Just get in touch. Let your friends know about the podcast too. There's a lot of people out there that are hurting. If you know anybody else going through this situation of just a difficult breakup, or anytime where there's kids involved and there's high tension and high conflict, tell people about the show, and hopefully we can help more people that way. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye. Thanks, Brooke.
Take care, everybody.
Brooke, people don't have to wait until Friday mornings to get more content. If this is something that's helpful for them, right? This isn't the first time you've broadcast anything or recorded anything or put anything out there in the world. What are the other ways people can get the help more aggressively or speed up their recovery process? What materials are available for people right now?
Well, I've written a book called The Black Hole of High Conflict, and it's available on Amazon and Kindle.
Great.
And everything that we're talking about is really compressed and put into there. So this is a really good starter place to get in and get your mind working and to see what these concepts are about and how to start to apply them. The other place that I think that is valuable is to go to our website and look at some of the blog articles that I've written. Those are available there as well. They go into some of these other arenas, and that's at www.highconflict.net. So the book, the website are also really good places to get the material. And also we have classes. We have high conflict diversion program classes that you can get into and get some one-on-one help with this as well.
And you know me, I'm aggressive. Whatever I want to become good at or learn, I find someone who's good at it and pay them and hire them and shorten my learning curve. What if somebody just wants your help? Somebody says, Brooke has this information. He's good at something I'm not good at yet, and I want to work with him. Do you have any type of coaching or consultations or anything like that?
Absolutely. I do one-on-one coaching for custody cases. I help people get ready for family court services. If you've got that in your community, I work with attorneys and clients to help them with managing and strategically setting them up to have more successful cases as well.
And how do they reach out? You want them to just go to the website or email or phone, or what's the best way for them to reach out, raise their hand, and say, I need some help?
They can email me. My direct email is Brook at highconflict.net. That's BROOK at highconflict, HIGH, conflict.net.
Perfect. That's everything everybody would need to get some help, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you, Charlie.